We are
Folks,
live.
what is up? Welcome back to a live episode of the Vol Talk podcast. Folks, no kidding. We literally just got done recording an episode about the Nico situation, and it was literally in the process of uploading. And the news broke that Nico Iamaleava is now out at quarterback at the University of Tennessee. Coach Josh Heupel. I'm gonna read y'all straight from the news articles here. Josh Heupel spoke to the team on Saturday morning, and so today is Saturday, and said they are moving on from Nico after he skipped the meetings and practice on Friday. He held out. That's reporting from ESPN's Pete Thamel. And then Yahoo's Ross Dellinger says that Nico has officially submitted paperwork to the school to enter the transfer portal. So, Austin, dude, we just got done literally an hour-long episode talking about this situation. And look, we were already like, hey, we're moving on
We're
anyway.
done.
We were
Exactly.
and in fact, we knew this was coming, but it's just funny that literally as we're uploading the episode, we got to go live because it's breaking news right now.
Exactly. We were 50% uploaded on this episode, and I was saying, oh, well, Nico will have to apologize if he's going to mend this relationship between him and the fans. But it's official. Nico is gone, and I could not be happier. Bye. I'm so done with this kid and his family and everything that transpired. And listen, we said, Blake, on that episode that's about to be uploaded, that dude, he didn't just break the relationship with the fans, he also broke the relationship with the coach and all the players. And I guarantee what happened was, dude, after he skipped practice, Coach Heupel had to say, nope, we're putting an end to that. Nope, if you don't want to be here, we don't want you here. Bye.
Exactly, and that's exactly how it should be. That and I hope that is exactly what happened with Heupel. Is he got the team together and said that's not acceptable, and we're done. We're moving on. That needs to be exactly what happened, because it's a thousand. We already talked about it. It's funny. I hate that people can't have watched the episode
I
that
know,
we
dude.
just
It's old
recorded.
news.
But because we just talked about that, it's like, that you can't do that to your teammates and to your coaches and to the fan base. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you just can't do that. So
they they literally handled every single part of this wrong, right? Because I said on the episode, Blake, that renegotiating is fine. Like, the news broke on Thursday that he was renegotiating his contract. People were annoyed. People didn't write off Nico at that point, though. No one was saying, "Oh, we want Nico out of the fan base." Like, we were fine. Listen, he's asking for more money. That's the reality of today's college football, right? You're asking for more money. The problem was the next day, after his dad called the reporter who reported this a bitch on Twitter. That happened. He called the reporter that reported all this was happening a bitch, saying that he was lying. He wasn't. Let's everybody involved nation go apologize to that reporter, because y'all were dragging him too. And then the next day at practice, he goes to coaches and doesn't show up for practice. And I said this, dude. Holdouts happen in the NFL all the time. It never happens with the quarterback. The quarterback is
never.
treated differently in every aspect of the sport. And as the leader of the team, the guy that everyone's looking to, the guy who's making more money than everyone, the guy who's more famous than everyone, you cannot skip practice, dude. You just cannot do it, man. You just lost the respect of everyone in the locker room, and you lost the respect of all your coaches. And I am glad that Coach Heupel made a quick decision. This is not going to happen at the University of Tennessee. If you don't want to be here, we don't want you here.
Period. And that is, the fact that we talked about in this episode that we just recorded. We talked about how in NFL the contracts are binding, right? And so once you have a contract, you're bound for 3 years and you're getting paid that much and whatever. And part of the problem with college athletics right now is because it's just the Wild West. However, one good thing about that is in this kind of situation where a player decides that he's going to try to hold out again, it's not just the university, it's not just the fan base. You held out on your teammates who looked to you as the leader, and you held out on them. And so thankfully, because we aren't in a bound contract, Coach Heupel said, no, this is not acceptable. This is not, because it isn't, right? Like, that's not how a teammate should act. And the reason quarterback is different, and the reason it's never happened outside of you brought up in the episode that everyone's going to go watch after this live episode. You brought up Jamarcus Russell, and he held out for his rookie contract negotiation, and then he ended up being an absolute flop. Look, the reason it doesn't happen for quarterback is because the quarterback is a leader. He needs to have the command the respect of the locker room and his teammates and all of that. And you're already getting paid more than everyone else. And that's why we were annoyed when the news first broke on Thursday is that, okay, look, fine, you're trying to get more money, but really you're trying to get more money after that season? It's a
Exactly.
mediocre season at best, and there's other teammates who are playing better than you who won games more so than you did, and they're getting paid less.
Listen, that's what people were saying. Why didn't we give Dylan Sampson that money? Dylan Sampson earned it more than Nico did last year. What did
I was
Nico bring to this team that was game changing, dude? There was 3 games last season, Blake, 3 in a row where we didn't score a point in the first half. Is like, is that a sign of good quarterback play? Is that a sign of a guy that you want to double his salary? By the way, we paid him $2 million his true freshman season to never play, to literally not take a snap. That's more money than I may ever make in my entire life, unless this ball talk explodes. That's more money than I may ever make. $2
yeah.
million to not play, and then you got $2 more million to be average at best. That's the reality. He was average at best last season, right? And then coming into this year, he wants to double his money based on what? Running out of bounds in the Arkansas game at the end of the game to make us lose, or the Ohio State game where you were a complete no-show. You were a complete no-show. You couldn't make a decision the entire game, and now all of a sudden you want $4 million, dude. I cannot be happier in the swiftness that Josh Heupel said, no, we are not putting up with this. We have other good quarterbacks on the roster, which we'll have to get into. What's next at quarterback? Well, I'm excited about what's next at quarterback
Yep.
because let's be honest, Nico didn't show anything that told us, okay, this is a future Heisman candidate. He didn't. Like, going into the year, we're like, oh, this guy could be going for the Heisman. He could be first overall draft pick in the first year he's draft eligible. Coming out of last year, nobody was saying those same things, dude. Nobody. He had better Heisman odds at the beginning of last season than he did going into this season. What does that
Yes.
tell you, man? That's with an extra season of improvement. That's with an extra season in the offense. But people say, okay, no, we believed in him more when we didn't know what he was, but we saw him play and we're like, wait a second, this guy's like
Nope.
not that great, right? He's
He
not
ain't.
that
He
great.
ain't. He ain't the guy,
Exactly.
and that's what I was saying during the during last season, bro, on the podcast was like, look, he showed flashes of athleticism, and he had the athleticism of a quarterback, but the problem is that he didn't show that he had the good decision making of that is so critical
Quick
for a
decision
quarterback.
making, quick
Quick
decisions.
decision,
He
and
just was
that's
average at
not
best, man.
something average at best, and that's not something you can just learn overnight. You can't learn in the off season either. That has to be, something that you develop over a long time or just have innately. Folks, thanks for joining us for the live episode. We got Kankle Fark, my buddy Zeke, in the chat saying in the flesh, oh snizzle. Matthew Bradley, thanks for joining us. He says bye Felicia. Couldn't agree anymore. And Ryan in the chat supporting us. He
That's
says
how the
let
fan
the
base feels, man. And the fan
yeah.
base is
Bye Felicia.
there's nobody in this fan base that is missing Nico right now. Nobody. After the
And let
way
me
he
let me
played and after the way he handled this situation.
correct, and let me clarify first. Very important that we even on this podcast, even me who was questioning Nico last season, I still want, dude. I was talking about him being a Heisman candidate, bro,
We
all
supported
season
him all
long.
season.
All support. I want to see him succeed. Want to see some. So let's be very clear that he is the one that decided to turn his back on the Vols, not the other way around, right? Like we're like, okay, you know what? We're done. Fine, you showed us who you really are. But it's not that the fan base turned our back on him and then he
So
left.
true.
It was 1,000% him.
It's so true, Blake. I made this point in the episode that we are dropping currently, which is Tennesseans and Tennessee fans are loyal to people that are loyal to them. And when you break that loyalty, all of a sudden the gig is up, man. All of a sudden,
That's
we're
right.
done with it. We don't want
Yep.
any part of it. If you're going to skip out on practice and you're going to act like you're bigger than the University of Tennessee, we want no part of that, man. This is not the big leagues, dude. Plus, you haven't earned it with the play on the field. That's one of the biggest points, because if you had shown us last season, right, that you were that 5-star recruit, that Heisman pedigree, 5-star pedigree with all the tools, and put up great numbers, then all of a sudden maybe we would be like, okay, I get it, all this. But you didn't even play that well, and then you handled it at such an abysmal level. I cannot explain to you how poorly this situation was handled by Nico and his team, and we got to get into that, man, because I have some grace for Nico, the kid, because he got all time bad advice, dude. Literally some of the worst possible advice he could have ever gotten, right? Because immediately when you skipped practice, it was done. That's when the door was shut. It wasn't, don't mistake this, Nico
Exactly.
and friends. Don't mistake this, Nico and team. It was not the fact that you asked for more money. That was never the problem. It was the fact that you went public with the negotiation and you skipped practice. That's what killed the relationship. That's what killed the relationship with the fans. That's what killed the relationship with your coaches and the other people in that locker room, dude. Trust me, I have never seen a such one-sided situation, dude. Former players, current players, coaches, fans, they're all in agreement. Nico and his team were in the wrong in this situation.
They botched it. They just absolutely botched it because again, at the end of the day, it's one thing if, it's one thing if you are again wanting more money and all this, all this other stuff, but at the end and you're doing contract negotiations and all that, and it's one thing if you're a different player, but you're a quarterback and then you bailed on your teammates, man. You bailed on your teammates.
As the
We've
leader, the highest paid player, as the leader, as the guy who's
exactly.
supposed to lead by example. And dude, how this fan base took him with open arms, dude. How many 8-year-olds are walking around with Nico jerseys right now, dude, and that are devastated? And that speaks to something we have to get into as well, which is the state of college football. This is hurting the sport, dude. This is hurt like to a detrimental degree, right? We have in the title, or we have in the description, is it ruining college football? Yes, the answer is yes, because how many kids, right, had Nico on their wall, or again, a jersey? He became their favorite player. Now, all those kids, all their parents are going to have to say, listen, sorry, son, but he decided he wanted to go play somewhere else for more money. That kid might not stay a fan of the sport. They may
Yeah.
literally stop watching college football as a young child and never get back into it because their favorite player just left the team that they root for, right? And I talk about this all the time, dude. My favorite player growing up, Eric Berry, right? Eric Berry was my guy growing up. Had Eric Berry transferred, right, which he wouldn't have because he's cut from a different cloth, which we've talked about. But had he transferred, Blake, I may not be as big as a Tennessee fan as I am right now. And
Yep.
dude, at the ground roots level, when we're talking about kids who literally forming their personality as children, if you don't stay into the sport and you stop becoming a fan of it, it's going to kill the sport. There's not going to be a young generation of fans that grow up loving college football. So it might legitimately kill the sport if NIL and the transfer portal continues down the road it is right now.
Exactly, because we've talked about it's different than the NFL. College football is a different sport, okay? And the NFL is a professional sport. This is college football where it's about tradition and the pageantry, right? And yes, there is a high level of play, but it's not the high level of play like the NFL. In college football, you can have underdog stories. You can have guys like Dylan Sampson who don't look like they're going to amount to much, and all of a sudden they come in and they work and they work and they work and they help their team and they're a leader, and then boom, all of a sudden you're going to be drafted within the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft, right? That's what college football is about. And look, we've got some folks in the chat here. CA says there will be more players leaving Tennessee because players were making decisions solely based on money. Look, at the end of the day, I think you maybe are not familiar with the situation because you're literally incorrect on that in terms of the whole reason he's leaving is not because he's like, the program's based on paying players. He wanted more money, and that's why he's leaving. And the fact of the matter is again, like Austin said, it's fine if he's going to negotiate more money. He didn't deserve more money. He didn't earn more money at all. But the whole problem comes down to, it's not about it's put away the money, put away the fan base, put away everything. It still comes down to, you abandoned your coaches and your teammates, and as the leader and the quarterback and the person who's getting paid the most, it's done. You said in that moment that we're breaking the news right now, Austin. We're talking about this breaking news right now because it's just now coming out. But at the end of the day, you and me both knew on Friday morning, as soon as
It
it
was
broke
done.
that he was not at practice, it was done. He was out.
He killed the relationship with the fans and he killed the relationship with his coaches. I mean, Rick makes a good point in the chat. Did he leave or did he get fired? Like, did he
Yeah,
quit or did he get fired? Because at the end of the day, Josh Heupel made this decision. Go look at the reports. Josh Heupel made the decision. He spoke to the team and said, Nico's not going to be with this team anymore. It's done. He's shown his true hand. He's shown that he's not going to be a leader. And he wasn't good enough to try to keep him around anyways, right? It's not like he showed us
exactly.
enough to say, oh, we have to bend over to give Nico what he wants. That's not what happened, right? He didn't show that last season. So
Exactly. And
why would we go to, like, why would we give in to his demands when he didn't even show that he's worth it?
yeah, and exactly, and Richie Dubs says in the chat, he thinks that Nico would thrive in a quote real offense. But the fact of the matter is again, you obviously have not watched Tennessee football, because the problem with Nico Iamaleava is that he lacked in quick decision making, right? If his first read wasn't, and that's what made Hendon Hooker so great, right? Is that Hendon Hooker was able to read, and if his first read wasn't open, boom, he made a quick second decision to his second read or his third read, or he took off on his feet, right? Nico, as soon as his first read is off or is not open, he can't make a quick decision, and he's taken. And yes, the O line was part of the problem this season, right? He says that there were no receivers. We had plenty of receivers. Okay, again, you don't know Tennessee football, because we had plenty of receivers. The O line was a bit of an issue, but if your O line can't hold the line for as long as Nico was taking to make decisions, right? And so Austin's point is that he didn't, Richie is coming back in and saying, hey, the foundation is off because the money's not there. It's like, he didn't earn. That's the whole point, is he didn't
Yeah,
earn any
that
extra money.
it's not
He
true,
didn't
but it's
earn
it's
it.
fine. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I don't know what fan of college football right now is defending NIL. I mean, right? Like it's a complete mess in general. It's a complete unorganized mess in general. We've talked about this so much that these NIL deals, dude, neither side of the contract has to be met, right? This is what we're seeing. Nico had already signed a deal for $2 million a year for 4 years, $8 million in total. Well, he came back in the middle of the deal and said, well, I don't like that deal anymore. And then you look at the Florida situation, right, with their quarterback that they had a couple years ago commit, and they promised him all this money, and then what happened? They didn't. The check bounced. They didn't have the
Yep.
money to pay him. These aren't real contracts. It's completely unorganized, and I mean, it's not going to get better. That's the problem. Like, I don't have. Like, oh, this is not an optimistic view, because listen, the NCAA is not going to fix this, dude. It's not. They're not going to fix it. They're not going to fix this mess that's happening right now with the NIL and transfer portal. It is already too far gone. So listen, the solution might just be, listen, we got to get them on legitimate contracts, right? Legitimate contracts like you see in professional sports, because it right now it's so unorganized. It's such a mess.
Yep.
And listen, dude, I mean, I can't find anyone that's defending Nico and the way he handled this. Like, you just can't find those people
Exactly.
out there. They just don't exist. Go look what the former players say. The former players are on the side of the University of Tennessee in this situation.
And that's key, because you've talked about how former players in the past have been like, hey, because they didn't get paid when they played. No, well, they officially they didn't get paid, right? And
Oh, our
so they
guys
are,
didn't. I mean, like, I've talked about this
yeah,
before. Phil
because
Fulmer did
yeah,
it the right way.
Phil
Now,
Fulmer
Jeremy
did
Pruitt
it.
was handing out the McDonald's
He
bags
was
and
handing out the
whatever
McDonald's bags,
to
but
bad players. Let's be honest. I mean, he
yeah,
handed it
yeah.
to bad. I mean, he should have handed it to better players. But
But
at the
our
end of the
former
day,
players, yeah, our former players weren't getting paid, and so they're typically on the side of players. They're like, they typically come to bat for the players, because they're like, hey, get these guys paid. But you're not seeing this now, because again, the point comes down to, when he held out of practice on Friday. That was the
Exactly.
key moment, right? That was the absolute key moment. And we've got Todd in the chat saying, "Hey, he's even a Bama fan, but he says, good for us because the defense and Samson
That's a
got the
fact.
ball to the playoffs."
That's a
And that's a
fact.
fact.
That's a guy who watches college football, man. He is clearly in the know of college football because if you watch Tennessee in 2024, it was absolutely Dylan Sampson and the defense that got us to the playoffs. That is without question. And that's part of the problem. Listen,
Right.
if you think Tennessee, the University of Tennessee didn't have the money, they had the money. That wasn't the issue wasn't money. Trust me, the issue wasn't money. The issue was why would we pay you double when you didn't show it on the field and then you just abandoned your teammates and your coaches by skipping practice, dude. Like nobody wants you here anymore. Like like you said
And good
earlier,
on
dude.
Coach Heupel. Good on Coach
Exactly.
Heupel
Good on
for
Coach
calling that
Heupel.
out.
Exactly like you said, Blake. Immediately when he goes to the coaches and skips practice on Friday, it was done. We all knew it was over. And there's not a
Yeah.
single Tennessee fan that's sad about it. Go find me literally a single Tennessee fan that watches and follows the sport that is upset that Nico is leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Find one. Bring me one.
Because he didn't show it on the field. And look, here's the deal. Maybe he will, be able to play a little better in a different offense where he doesn't have to rely on quick decision making. I don't know, like maybe if they make a scheme that's simpler for him or something, I don't know. Maybe and here's the deal. I wish the kid success, right? I
I
hope that
don't.
he goes
I
and
don't. I'll be honest. I don't. The way they handled the
well, after no,
situation,
I agree with you.
it was
After this,
terrible.
yeah.
Listen,
Well, and that's the point is that we were supportive of him, right? And if he had look, here's the deal: if he had transferred just because he didn't get the money, then okay, I would wish him success. But it's the fact that you
it's how he did it.
acted the way you did
It's how he did it.
and abandoned his team and his fans. Because of all this, that's where it's like, you know what? No. And at the end of the day, he doesn't have the quick decision making that is needed. And we have a bright future at quarterback. We've got plenty
Yes,
of talent
we
at
do.
quarterback, so we're not hurting.
And listen, and you make a good point, dude, because the system itself is what we're upset with as far as the NIL and the transfer portal, right? The system itself is broken, and we all acknowledge that as college football fan. Again, find me a college football fan that disagrees with that. The system is totally broken. So that part of it, we're not upset about. It's how you acted in it. It's how you
Yep.
acted. You acted bigger than the school, and you acted bigger than your teammates and your coaching staff, who like literally welcomed you with open arms, dude. Did nothing but support you the whole time, man. That's what's irritating. That's what it's irritating. They set him up to succeed. They tried their best, and this is kind of the end result, and it's just not good. But like to your point, dude, there is a bright future at quarterback. We have 2 4 stars. Actually, one was a 5 star, George
He
McIntyre,
was.
who, by the way, I have to say this about George McIntyre for the Vols fans listening. Go watch his recruitment video, dude. When he
Oh,
committed to the University of Tennessee, literally the kid grew up a Tennessee fan. He's playing Rocky Top in the back of this video. That's a guy who wants to be here. And as a Tennessee fan, I'll speak for the fan base because most people agree with me on this. We want a guy like McIntyre playing instead of a guy like Nico. That's a guy who wants to be here. He loves the university and he's going to give his all. When he hits the sign every time he comes out on Saturday, he's really going to mean it because it means more to him. He actually loves the university. And that's the part that we can all agree with in college football that we're missing about the sport. That's why we grew up loving the sport because it was different than the NFL. It was different from major league sports because there was a different level of passion and pride that
passion.
went into cheering for your state team.
Cheering for your because there's a pride in where you're from. There's a pride in the team that you follow as a kid, bro. You talked about and listen. The episode dropped while we were live, folks. We had the episode that we were literally recording before we went live, before the news broke that he was officially out. We were recording it and it has posted now, so go watch that. But in that episode, Austin talks about the great Eric Berry and all these guys who who essentially made you a fan, Austin. Well,
Absolutely.
when I was a kid and I became a fan, and we had people like the great Al Wilson, and he has that old school linebacker with the neck pad and just looking like an absolute mon. And those kind of guys, Austin, look, that again, ultimately everyone is trying to make money. Okay, put that aside. I get it. You want to make money, and these players want to get their due. Not talking about that. Here's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone like Al Wilson who plays for the love of the game. He freaking wants to be great because he loves football. And he gets out there and he would lay it all out on the line every single Saturday and Inky Johnson, talk about Inky Johnson, literally laid his body on the line for the love of the game, dude. And
And
and you don't see and now we're playing for the love of your social media following
Blake,
and and money. Like what?
but that's the thing though, Blake. And we talked about this on the last episode. What did Eric Berry, playing for the love of the game, right? Playing for the University of Tennessee, what did that result in? He's in multiple Hall of Fames. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He's in the University of Tennessee Hall of Fame, and he will be in the NFL Hall of Fame. And guess what? Nico wants $4 million. Eric Berry made $78 million on the Kansas City Chiefs on his second contract. That's what playing for the love of the game and playing for the sport got him. Okay, that leads to success. What about Peyton Manning? I'm wearing a Peyton Manning jersey right now. What did he do? He could have been a first-round draft pick in 1997. He could have come out a year early. But what did he do? He played for the University of Tennessee. He wanted to come back his senior season. He wanted to accomplish things in college that he has not yet to accomplish yet. And what did that lead to? He's in multiple Hall of Fames. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. He could have been a first round pick. He could have got his money. And guess what? Back when he was playing, Blake, there was no NIL. That didn't exist.
Nope.
There was no money in college. So when he decided to stay, he was staying for the love of the university, dude. And that's what's missing in college football. And I don't know who's all watching right now, but I'm sure like as we've seen in the chat, there's some non-Tennessee fans. We can all agree with that, right? We can all agree. When a player commits to our favorite team, we want them to love that team, right? We want them to love that team because what is that going to result in? They're going to play hard. And when they play hard, it results in good things for the team. It results in wins. Like all of it's correlated.
Good things for them. Good things for them too.
Exactly.
And we were talking about on the episode that we recorded. It's like, so not all players who commit themselves fully to football end up becoming legends. But guess what? All legends committed themselves to football fully.
No question.
All of them. And so the fact of the matter is you don't see a guy like Peyton Manning or Eric Berry or any of the rest of them who, you look back and it's like, oh yeah, he held out of practice one time and abandoned his teammates, so he could
you don't see it. Doesn't exist.
A little bit more money after a mediocre season. No, it doesn't exist. Example of it existing with quarterbacks is Jamarcus Russell, who you've talked about is the biggest flop of all time.
Who held out of his rookie contract. It's like, dude, do you really want to be on a list with Jamarcus Russell? So I got a quote from Eric Berry, right? Eric Berry was on campus this weekend because guess what? He was getting inducted into a Hall of Fame. That's what Eric Berry does. That's what a guy like that does. He says you got to commit to the opportunity within yourself. That's what he said about the situation when asked about Nico. What that told me is, dude, you can go after the money. You can chase the bag. But if you don't commit to playing football and giving your all for where you're at, no matter where you commit, whether it's University of Tennessee or somewhere else, if you don't give your all, then you're never going to accomplish what you want to accomplish in the sport. And guess what? If you don't accomplish what you want to accomplish, which is being an NFL player, getting drafted in the NFL, getting a second contract in the NFL, that means less money, dummies. That's what these agents and these parents and these kids have to understand. Okay, yes, there might be a little bit more long-term pain because boo-hoo, you're getting $2 million instead of $4 million, or whatever the case may be. But that long-term pain, or really long-term, it's really a couple years, right, in college, can lead to long-term success, long-term, success in the NFL. So, I mean, that's just what these parents and these agents have to understand. There might be a little short-term pain, a couple years, to lead to long-term success in the NFL and further.
It's an investment.
Yes.
And people don't grasp this concept of putting off gratification, right? Everyone's about instant gratification. But let's also put this into perspective. You're saying short-term pain on a guy making $2 million a year to be a college student and play football. Right. So let's be real. Putting it into perspective, we're saying short-term pain, relative to the situation. The guy's not in pain at $2 million a year, $8 million overall if you'd stayed at Tennessee.
We have to address the comment. Apparently some Vols fans on Twitter are saying our season's over. I completely agree with this commenter.
Nope.
I think it could be the exact opposite. Listen, I get it. Nico has the tools and all that. We're not saying, listen, me and Blake, neither one of us has said that Nico has zero chance of success anywhere else. But we got dudes on the roster, dude. We're going to be just fine at quarterback.
Um,
Jake Merklinger has already been here for a year, 4-star recruit, very highly touted recruit. George McIntyre, like I've already mentioned, a guy who actually loves Tennessee, was rated a 5-star at some point. His story is interesting because he was rated 5 stars at one point, but what happened was he basically couldn't perform in an all-star game in high school, so they demoted him to a 4-star. So we're
yep,
talking about a 5-star talent on our roster currently as a true freshman. The quarterback position is going to be just fine. And it's not
very
like,
fine.
again, I've said that, I've made this point already for the viewers that haven't heard yet. It's not like Nico showed us that he's like some insane talent that we just can't do without. Like, it's, oh no, Nico's gone. It's like, no, man, it's
He sh
kind of the
he showed
opposite.
he showed flashes of athleticism. He did. He had good moments last year. You talked about how he helped us win the Alabama game, but to Todd's point in the chat earlier, the defense got us in that position, right? And Todd
Absolutely.
even says, look, even if we don't have to go to Merklinger or McIntyre, there's QBs that could be in the portal that'll get through one year. I don't think we're going to have to go to the portal, but the fact of the matter is Nico, that's the whole thing, is that Nico was asking for more money when he did not show that he was some generational talent that all of a sudden he was going to have a breakout season.
No
You know,
question.
we're just going to be just fine without Nico.
And
And Southern Style just hopped in there and said the exact same thing. We'll be
we're,
just fine without Nico.
or what
Absolutely.
John said, the season's not over. We need a quarterback instead of a drama queen. I totally agree. So what
Yes,
Josh
that
Heupel
is a great
decided,
point.
yeah, what Josh Heupel decided is the drama is not worth it. Whatever potential you have as a 5-star, whatever that was, it's not worth it for the drama. So we're going to get that out of the program. We want guys that want to be Tennessee Volunteers, and that's how they're going to win. And that's the only way they're going to win here. Let's be honest. You're not going to win with a guy like Nico, right? Who's gonna, that never works out. Going place to place, hopping in the portal. Go look at the recent guys that have been hopping in the portal time and time again. It's not worked out.
Yeah, 1,000%. It doesn't work out, and like 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work out when you go into the portal and because again, it's like you're showing your character, it would be totally different. Like we've said, if Nico was just trying to get the money, he didn't get the money, and then he hit the portal, it'd be totally
It
different.
wasn't like
Guess
that
what?
though.
He has now shown his character that, and look,
Well,
we gave him grace in the episode that we recorded before we went live, that it's probably bad advice from, and Ryan made this point, who's in the chat. It's probably bad advice from his agent slash
absolutely.
family, whatever. So give grace to Nico in that he's still immature and he needs better people around him to help make better decisions. But at the end of the day, he has shot himself in the foot by holding out and not showing up to practice. You completely diminished your possibility of a team looking at you and saying, oh yeah, this is going to be the guy, or even your teammates of whatever team you end up landing on. They're going to see that and they're going to be like, who is this guy? Who's this quarterback who wants to come in and lead me now?
Fans are making some great points in the comment. I mean, a Miami fan just came in and said Van Dyke made similar threats that he was going to go to Alabama, and Miami paid up. But the vibe was off after that. And that's a great point, dude, because what do other teammates think who might be better players? Now, they're not as valuable because it's the quarterback position. And I've talked about on this podcast several times that, listen, the quarterback position is a unique position because it's the most valuable in sports, but it doesn't mean you're the best player on the team. Don't get it twisted. Just because you're the highest paid player doesn't mean you're the best player on the team. And
1,000%.
I mean, how do the guys that can play, there's some real good players on this roster. How do they feel? Like Nico's demanding
Exactly.
4 million. I'm not even getting 1 million. Where's my money at?
Honestly, dude, there's probably some dudes who aren't getting paid anything who probably work harder than he does,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
who are trying to make an impact because they love the game and because they love the university. And Stanley makes a great point that Joe Flacco is getting $4 million a year and
Yep.
won a
He
Super
just signed
Bowl.
that contract. That's
Not
a
not
great
wanting
point,
to,
dude.
not wanting to pay a college kid wanting money like that when the only thing they want is an Alabama game. Absolutely. And again, the only reason we were in that Alabama game to begin with was
It's the
because of the
defense.
defense.
Again, I
So
have
it's
to I have to say again, dude, 3 games in a row, Blake, without scoring a point in the first half. Does that, if I brought that to you, right? I'm the quarterback of a team. I'm the quarterback of a franchise, which I couldn't do for the record. But I'm the quarterback for a
North back.
franchise, and I bring that to you and I say, "Hey coach, I know we had 3 games in a row where we literally couldn't score a point in the first half, but please double my salary." Get out of here, dude. Are you
Get out of here.
insane? Are like, have you lost your marbles? And then you think it's going to help skipping practice? Yeah, no, that's a good way for us to tell you, bye, hit the portal, buddy. We don't want you here.
And that, folks, is the freaking bottom line, is goodbye. And everyone seems to agree. Again, we supported the guy. We wanted him to succeed. And we were annoyed, but it was fine when he was just trying to negotiate more money. But then you come in and you show your true colors and you abandon everyone around you, the fans, I keep going back to the teammates, man. How are you supposed to be
Yes,
the leader of a locker room when you abandon your teammates like that?
like
When they're not getting paid that kind of money, I mean,
it's
everyone knows it's a joke.
it's the first college holdout ever, Blake. It's literally historical, and
I hate
it's
that it happened here too.
oh, I
That's
know. I
just
hate that it
ridiculous.
happened here, but listen, it's a snake in the grass. You got the snake out of the grass. The reality is, dude, everyone is on one side of this argument. The players, the current players, the former players, the coaches, the fans, they all think Nico and his team made a mistake. That's the
Yep.
reality, dude. And I'm not saying he can't be successful anywhere else. That could happen. Who knows what's going to happen with his career? But all I know is I don't care, dude. I don't care what he would have brought here. I don't want that kind of guy on the team. I just don't.
Don't don't want it. Don't want it. Don't want to be around it. Don't want that, because that is not, ultimately, that's, no matter how good you are, that's not going to make your team better, because you want a guy who brings people up around him, not brings them down and only is looking out for himself. So,
Especially as a quarterback, man. The ultimate
especially,
leader, supposed to be the ultimate leader, and you completely failed in that regard. And all the people around him failed too, man. I just cannot believe the
yeah,
blunder that those like what did you think that was gonna come out of skipping practice? Like what did you
yeah.
think was gonna happen?
And dude, and listen, and unfortunately, human beings are not very good at admitting when we're wrong. So what's going to happen? I'm going to go ahead and predict this: is Nico's going to
Oh, they're
end up
gonna
at
dig in.
they're going to dig in. He's going to end up at some other school, probably not an SEC school, if I had to guess. Probably not even a big time Power Five school. Going to end up somewhere. He's going to throw his first pass next season, his first touchdown pass next season for this team, and they're going to be like, oh, and they're just going to dig in even further. Man, this was the right decision for him, and da da da. And then guess what's going to end up happening? He's going to blow his now probably 500,000 that he's going to make at whatever that school is, if that. He's going to blow all of
No
that
one's
on
paying him 4 mil.
some stupid purchase, and then he's going to not make it in the NFL, and then he's going to not have that kind of money, and he's going to end up being a car salesman in California. I mean, that's ultimately what's going to happen. Is, if I had to predict, is they're going to dig in, and he's not going to see until late years on down the road, where, like you talked about, he's not playing the long game because they want that instant gratification, and that's the problem, man. But ultimately, as Tennessee fans, look, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be
Yeah.
all right.
Oh yeah, we got guys on the roster ready to step up. First of all, gotta appreciate everyone watching. Thank you to everyone listening.
Yep.
Hit the subscribe button if you're here. You like the content. You like the live reaction. Please hit the subscribe button for us if you don't mind. You're
Hey,
if possibly you could be the 100th subscriber. We're like 2 subscribers off from 100 right now, so you could be lucky subscriber number 100. But we do appreciate everyone tuning in. I just think, dude, ultimately my takeaway is the Nico thing. Yes, we've already talked about, but man, college football, it's hanging on by a thread, man. It really is,
it
dude.
really is.
The
Yep.
sport we grew up loving, the sport I fell in love with, is hanging on by a thread. And I get it, like they've got the money, they've got the TV deals, whatever. But I'm thinking about the 8-year-old fan who's trying to form his personality just like I was when I started watching college football. And the reasons I fell in love with it then are just completely dead. It's just completely
Yep.
gone. And that Tennessee fan out there right now with a Nico jersey on, that 8-year-old is going to stop watching the sport. And that's happening all over the country, dude, because you can't fall in love with a team if you can't even know the players. You don't even know who's going to be on the roster the next year because there's absolutely no structure. The way that they implemented NIL and the transfer portal rules and everything like that was just done in literally possibly the worst way like
Yep.
humanly possible, right? Because NIL was supposed to be name, image, and likeness for autograph deals, sponsorships, things of that nature. It's become NIL collectives, which are essentially the universities themselves paying for players. And it's just, I mean, dude, it's a total joke, man. If someone doesn't fix college football and figure out a way to satisfy the players and the paying and all that, and keep what made the sport great in the first place intact, then it's done, man. And college football's done.
And it's sad because man, college football is my favorite sport more than the NFL, more than anything else. Because there's just so much more to it. That's the SEC's slogan, but really it should be college football's slogan. It just means more, man. It just means more. College football means more, and it is unfortunately fallen by the wayside. And so something needs to happen. Something needs to give in order to change the outlook for the sport. But folks, look, we, like Austin said, we really appreciate y'all hopping on here with us. This is probably our most concurrent viewers that we've had on a live stream. We ended last college football season when we were going through the playoffs, and we had a lot of viewers then, and we got up to 300 total views, but we've got up to 40, almost 50, I think, viewers concurrently on this video at one point. So we really appreciate y'all jumping in. Obviously, this is breaking news. We really appreciate everyone being active in the chat. Shout out to Crowbird, who he said he's a Canes fan, but he dropped us a subscription. Really appreciate that. At the end of the day, everyone who's here, whether they're a Vols fan or not, like Austin said, loves college football, right? And so I think we can all agree at least that, man, something's got to change for college football so that we can continue loving this great sport. So, folks, we're going to continue to cover Vols football. Right now we're in baseball season, so we drop weekly episodes for baseball, but we will continue to cover in the off season football news. We'll drop probably some historical football stuff, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. Go ahead and drop us a subscription if you haven't already. We really appreciate the support. Austin, any final thoughts on Nico Iamaleava and college football before we head out here?
Just some guys, we do have to head out, but just some guys making some good points in the chat. It is interesting. Keep an eye out for the portal. I mean, there is a lot of reports saying that a big name quarterback is going to enter the portal just to go to Tennessee. So, I mean, that just begs the question, was like Nico, like the coaching staff already didn't want Nico. We're already shopping another guy because we saw how bad you were in spring practice. So we need somebody else on this roster. So that's going to be interesting. And dude, Stanley made a good point. I mean, Saban got out. There's a reason Nick Saban retired, and it wasn't because he couldn't coach anymore, and it wasn't because he was too old. It was because of the state of college football. The state of college football is in the worst state it's ever been, and I think all of us as college football fans agree with that.
1,000%. Brandon also jumping in, saying the exact same thing. Heupel made the right decision.
Absolutely,
because
dude.
he bailed on his team.
Could not agree more.
That's what we've been talking about. Absolutely. Again, folks, we did record an episode right before this breaking news dropped. It's old news now but we even said in the episode as my dog climbs up here. My dog
Annabelle's making an appearance. Y'all got a sub for Annabelle. I mean, look
yeah.
how
So
cute she is.
Drop a sub for Annabelle here. She almost knocked over my mic here. But we recorded the episode, but we said even in that episode, we were like, we knew this was coming. I mean, the writing was on the wall as soon as he skipped practice, so we knew it was coming. But go ahead and go check out that episode. We go into detail on everything we've been talking about here with NIL and the transfer portal, and just the culture at Tennessee and the culture of college football and what it should be. So go check out that episode. It dropped while we were live, so it is in the channel right now. Folks, please drop us a like, drop us a comment. We really appreciate y'all being active in the chat here. Shout out to everyone. Thank y'all so much for joining us. We are going to be back with our weekly episode at the beginning of next week after this baseball series this weekend. So check us out then. Until then, as always,